Hello everybody, and welcome back to Cooking with Grandma. I hope everybody is well during this crazy madness time that we're having right now. Stay home and bake, watch my videos, copy them, use the recipes, trade them with families, anything you like. Today I'm going to make a remake of one of my blurry videos from my old camera that had a crack in the screen, so apparently it caused the videos to be blurry, and you can hear what I'm saying, but it's really hard to see everything. So today I'm going to remake tri-level brownies. You don't have to put the third layer, which is frosting, and there's a couple of things in here that you can switch up or change if you like, but we're just going to kind of keep it pretty much by the recipe. So what we're going to do is start with the bottom layer. For that we need to stir together 1 cup of quick oats. You want to make sure that you don't buy the oatmeal that you eat for breakfast. This is the oatmeal, the quick oats that you use for baking. If you get the ones for breakfast, they take longer to cook, and then it's going to be hard and crunchy oatmeal in your brownies at the bottom, and it's not going to taste very good. So to that we're going to add 1/2 a cup of flour. No, sorry, wrong side. I have to do the first 4 ingredients. 1/2 a cup of brown sugar. That in. 1/2 a cup of brown sugar. First 4 ingredients. Yes, 1/2 a cup of flour. I was right. The way I've written it out is a little silly. You have to do the first 4 ingredients, which are the oats, the brown sugar, the flour, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Get my proper spoon here. 1/4 teaspoon. Put that in, and we're going to give this a real good stir to mix in everything, especially that baking soda, even though it is a little bit. If you don't want to get caught up in a bite that has all the baking soda in it, because it's going to taste really weird. So we're going to give that a good stir. Now to this, we've stirred together the first 4 ingredients, and we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this. When I wrote it out on my recipe card, I had forgotten to put the salt down. So we're going to put that in. And give that another little bit of a stir. And now we're going to stir in 6 tablespoons of melted butter. And this time I measured it, because the last time I wondered, geez, how much is 6 tablespoons? So I melted 6 tablespoons, and it's exactly 1/2 a cup. So 1/2 a cup of melted butter is what you want. Pour that in there and give that a good stir. And we're going to put this into the bottom of a 8-inch square pan that has been greased and buttered. Although there's a lot of butter in here, I just greased it a little bit just to make sure it doesn't stick. So now you want to pat this into the pan, put it right in there, just pat it down nice and flat, nice and even, and spread it out to cover the whole bottom. And it is a little bit wet because of all the butter, so it sticks to your spoon a little bit, but just with a little bit of patience. It doesn't take much. Look at how easy that is. You just get it going and get it all patted in there nice and even, and you want to pat it down pretty good so it's, it's nice and firm down into the bottom of the pan. And then I just take and use my hands, which, you're washing your hands 50 times a day nowadays. You can use the back of a cup, you can use your measuring cup and push it down. Use nice clean hands. That way you get the feel of it, and you know that it's even, and you know that it's all packed in right. So this we're going to put in the oven at 350, and we're going to bake it for 10 minutes. Stick it in there. I'm going to set my timer. And while that is baking, we're going to do our middle level. And now I just take a paper towel here, and I'm just going to wipe the bowl a little bit. We're not going to get a clean bowl. We're just going to wipe this out. It doesn't have to. These ingredients are all mixed together, so it doesn't hurt. There, it's good. So So now for the middle, we're going to combine the white sugar, the butter, and the chocolate. So we need 3/4 cup of sugar. This is going to make our brownie layer. This is 1/2 cup, and 1/4. Where is my 1/4 measuring cup? There we go. Got the wrong one out. I grabbed the 1/3. So 1/2 and 1/4. There's our 3/4 cup of sugar. Take that out of the way. And we need 1/4 cup of butter that has been melted. And of course I didn't melt that ahead of time, so it takes like 10 seconds in the microwave. It's fine. I'll just go and pop it in there, and I'll do the next step. So we combine the sugar, the butter, and the chocolate. Now it calls for one ounce square of melted. I don't have baked chocolate square. I just use baking powder, or sorry, cocoa powder. Let's see if we can see that in there. There we go. Just use the baking powder, and I take about 3 tablespoons of powder, or of the cocoa powder. Put a little bit of hot water, maybe a tablespoon, and I put a tablespoon of butter. And the hot water melts the butter into it, and it stirs up, and it looks like this. And there you have your square of chocolate. It's basically the exact same thing, but you don't have to buy one extra ingredient. You know, you've already got this in your pantry, so why not go ahead and use it? So I melted my butter. It was 1/4 cup. I'm just going to measure it out here and make sure. Perfect. Oh, perfect. I did it exactly right. I'm going to put that into the sugar. So we put the white sugar, the butter, and the chocolate. All that chocolate out of that bowl. Now this is unsweetened cocoa powder, but it's okay because you're adding the sugar. If after you make your batter and you give it a little taste and it seems a little bit on the not so sweet side, just throw in a little bit more sugar. It'll be fine. But it will mix up and it will be perfectly fine. Most of the time your baker's chocolate that you buy is bitter chocolate. You can get like semi-sweet, but it doesn't hurt anything to make your own. So we're going to combine this, the white chocolate, the butter, the white sugar, the butter, and the chocolate. Get it all. See how quickly that just melts? It's just so creamy already. That is perfect. That's exactly creamy. No lumps. There's no powder in it from the cocoa powder. It's nice and smooth and velvety. So then we're going to add an egg and beat well. Mix it. I don't use the mixer for this. I just use a wooden spoon. Again, why use extra appliances if you don't have to? There we go. Put an egg in there and give that a real good mix. Get that egg all incorporated. You don't want to see any white or any yellow, any bit of it left at all. Again, quick and easy, like 20 seconds maybe. This is a step-by-step recipe, but it's easy. You don't have a lot of fuss over it. There's not a lot of extra ingredients. You can put walnuts in his. I don't have any walnuts, and not going out to the grocery store for unnecessary items, so we're gonna forego the walnuts. But that's, you know, not important in brownies. So now we're gonna stir together the 2/3 cup of flour, the baking powder, and salt, and add it to the chocolate mixture alternately with milk. So we do need another bowl, which is not that big of a deal. You know, you can, some of the recipes you just dump all in one bowl, but for this one you need to do it alternately. So it's 2/3 cup of flour. Okay. There's 1/3. Let me just switch sides here to get my other bowl. You can't see through this bowl. It's my new fancy baking dish that my grandson bought me for my videos. You can't see through it, but it's still a really nice bowl. So 2/3 cup of flour. I think I hid my recipe underneath here. Baking powder and salt. So you want 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. There it is. 1/4 of a teaspoon. Okay. Come on, get out of there. There we go. 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Doesn't seem like very much, but don't forget you're only adding 2/3 of a cup of flour. Usually baking powder is like 1 teaspoon per 1 cup of flour. So that's your guideline. And then we're going to put 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Sorry, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Wrong part I was reading. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. That goes in. So you just give this a little bit of a stir. I am going to use a new wooden spoon only because I have my other one in the chocolate and we don't want to do the mixing just yet. So we got the 2/3 cup flour, baking powder, and salt, and then we're going to add to the chocolate mixture alternately with the milk and the vanilla. So milk is 1/4 cup. So I'm going to measure it, but I'm going to put it in a bigger measuring cup measurer so I can add the vanilla into it. So 1/4 cup of milk, and I'm going to add 1/2 a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm just going to add that right into my milk. 1/2 a teaspoon of vanilla. And that's like the basic ingredients. This is the middle level. So we're going to switch bowls again. So we're going to put 1/2 of our dry. You always start dry, wet, dry, wet. You always end up with the wet whenever you're doing it alternately. So I'm going to put 1/2 of the flour mixture. Give that a good mix. You don't want to over mix it. Brownies are like cake batter. If you over mix it, then you're going to get air bubbles, and it's going to be dense and hard in the, not hard, but thick in the middle, and then you could risk of bubbles, of air bubbles. You cut into it and it's got big holes in it. That's not pretty. So now we got that, and we're going to put in 1/2 of the milk and vanilla. Give it a good stir, and by the time we get through with this, our bottom level is going to be done. So for 10 minutes it took me to make my bottom level, melt the chocolate, melt the butter, stir it all in, and then do the alternately things like this. So not bad. This recipe takes like, I'd say, maybe 15 minutes prep time, and then 10 minutes to cook the bottom, and then you cook this for 25 minutes, so 35 minutes cooking time, and let it cool, and then put frosting on top as your third level, fudge frosting. So 20 minutes prep, 35 minutes cooking, 40 minutes you're done. So that's measured. We'll put the rest of our milk in there, get that all mixed in. Now we're not going to put the nuts in it this time. We're going to spread the batter over the baked layer and bake for another 25 minutes, and then we'll make our fudge frosting. You can also leave the fudge frosting off, but they are called tri-level. Tri means 3, but you don't, it's not the end of the world if you don't want to frost them. It's okay. Then you just have brownies with a good bottom to them, a little crust bottom. They're not just your typical brownies. So that is almost done. It's got like 20 seconds to go here. I'm going to take it out of the oven. Shut the timer off. And this is what it looks like. That's your bottom layer. There's your crust. Nice and golden brown, and it's not completely done. You see when I tipped it to show the camera, I about spilled it right out of the pan. It's not completely done, but that's okay because there is going to be more cooking time. We have still got another 25 minutes to cook it. I'm just putting it back. It kind of slid out of the pan a little bit. I tipped it a little too far. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour my chocolate mixture in. This is an easy recipe, a few more steps than your typical regular brownie recipe, but not that bad. You know, you got to have something extra to do these days, and this takes up a little bit extra time. When you're bored and you're going crazy sitting at home and you've watched as much TV as your eyes can stand watching, and you know, if you're into crafting and you're doing crafts, right now I'm crocheting a blanket for my son's girlfriend for her birthday. So, you know, you got to find something to do to keep busy and keep safe. Soon it should be over, hopefully. You know, they're predicting that pretty soon, another month or so, that they're going to start reopening businesses and reopening things. That'll be nice. But you know what? It's okay if it's not, because you want to be safe first. So we're going to put this back in the oven for 25 minutes. And we have to let it cool, obviously, and then we can frost it. So I will meet you back here in 25 minutes to show you what it looks like all done. Okay, so it's been our 25 minutes cooking time, and I let it cool for a few minutes, and that's what it looks like. Basically, it looks like your basic brownies, you know, just the chocolate cake stuff. You can't tell the difference that it's... So it looks like your basic brownie on top, just the chocolate cake, like brownies. But I cut a piece to show you underneath. You can see right there is the your bottom layer. That's your crust, and then you have the brownie. So now we're going to make the fudge frosting to go on top. Again, this step is totally optional. It won't be a tri-level brownie, a 3-level, but it will still be a yummy brownie with a cookie type crust on the bottom. So what we're going to do is, I have some powdered sugar here. You can go and buy a can of frosting. It's the same, it's not going to hurt a bit. I don't have very much of my powdered sugar left, just enough for this, so I'm going to be very, very careful on how I make this, because if I put too much milk in it, it's going to be too thin, and then I'm going to kind of be stuck without the frosting. So I don't measure when I put the ingredients in the comments below. When I put a list, I will give you measurements, but usually I just pour powdered sugar in, add a little butter, add a little tiny milk. I'm adding cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons, because I want it to be nice and fudgy, nice and chocolatey. But I usually don't measure when I make frosting. I just kind of eyeball it. Again, I will put the recipe and all the ingredients in the description box below. So any of you all want to follow it, want to use it, go right ahead, be my guest. So I just put some butter, about 2 tablespoons of butter, in this amount of, probably about, I'd say it was about 1.5 cups of icing sugar. Just giving it a mix, just to give it, see how much liquid I need to put in it. I'm just mixing the butter in with a fork. I will be using my mixer because it's much easier and it gives you a nice creamier. Now I'm just going to put the tiniest little bit of milk in to start with. You can always add more. You can't take it back once it's added. And if you don't have any more powdered sugar to add to it, you're out of luck, which is what I don't have right now. So very, very, very simple. A couple drops at a time. Okay, I just paused the video for a second because my mixer is so loud, but there is my fudgy chocolatey frosting. I used the mixer. It's got it nice and rich and creamy, nice and soft. I added just a tiny drop of milk at a time and mixed it as I went so it didn't get too wet. If I would have had more powdered sugar and if I added by mistake, I would have been okay. But I don't, so here we go. So now I'm going to just put this on top of here, and there you have a delicious tri-leveled brownie. You've got the cookie crust, the brownie, and the fudgy frosting. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please make sure to like. I hope we can get like to 25 likes on this one, maybe 30. That would be awesome. Leave me a comment below if you've liked it or if you've tried it. If there's anything you'd like to see me bake or cook, I will let you know. And again, I mentioned before, because somebody did request some recipes and he left his address in the comments, and what I suggested is to send me an email address, because with the mail the way it is right now, it would be a lot easier and safer if I sent you recipes by email. I have no problem mailing them. It's just that it's going to take a while depending on where you live, and it's going to get handled by so many people. So it's a lot safer to use the internet these days. So anyway, there you go. And you have a yummy, sugary, sweet, safe day. And make sure to comment, make sure to hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good day. Bye-bye now.